Okay, what would you say? Okay, so you've got this in your head,
Yeah.
and let's suppose, and this may have happened already, but you come upon a person who is in, going through this, going through a tragedy like losing a child. What advice would you give to the audience about how to share that with people?
How to share this worldview that may be very different than what they've heard in the past.
Yes.
I would say to listen first, to let that victim drive the theology car. So a lot of times when you go
Let
through...
the victim drive the theology car. That's a good metaphor.
So, I think a lot of times you'll have someone who's going through a trauma, and what we do immediately is revert back to the beliefs that we've always held. They're the ones that have sustained us through life, and so they're going to be the ones that we rely on in that trauma. And so to tell someone, you know what, I hear you saying God knows what he's doing, but I don't think God would do that to your child or to your husband or whatever it is. That could throw someone into a faith crisis on top of the crisis that they're already going into. Yeah. So it's not loving, I would say, at the least.
If it's helping them, leave it alone.
Leave it alone.
Right.
But I think in time, a lot of times questions arise after the dust settles, after you've just been there and let them drive the car. There may be questions that people go through and say, these answers that I grew up on are not working for me.
Okay.
Trusting that my life is going to be better now that my son's dead is not landing with me. And I cannot accept that a God of love planned this for my life and for his life. Okay. Not that depth of pain, not that early snatching away of his potential. And I can't live with that. And so I think when you have a person that's wrestling, then I would still say, perhaps ask them, would you like me to listen while you wrestle? Or would you like me to suggest some things that have been helpful to me or helpful to a woman I know who wrote a book? And then if someone says, at this point, I'll try anything, I'll read anything, I would suggest introducing them to this theology, because it is, I've seen people set free.
Jesus, talk about that. What kind of response have you got from the book?
Well, I think the most meaningful letters have been from people that have lost someone that they love, and they have been angry at God and bound maybe by that anger or the resentment. And this theology has unlocked that door and allowed them to take baby steps back towards God. And one woman said to me, now I won't feel like I've been slapped in the face every time someone says God loves you. Because now she can make coherent sense of love, because she really believes that God's on the side of life to the full.
Yeah.
And I've heard from other people who were just like, yes, someone is standing up to the songs that I hear on my Christian radio and the books that came in the mail when whoever died, and that say God knows what he's doing.
God awful terrible, aren't they?
They're beautiful melodies.
Oh, I know it. But the content of it is like, oh.
Yes, they're just.
Please.
And here's the thing. I think sometimes this theology works beautifully in the abstract or in the poetic or in the academic, but when you're living this, when you wake up with this and walk through the day with this and go to bed with this, and you try to figure out if you're going to have faith at all moving forward, sometimes those answers fall vastly short of being able to help you.
It gives people, when life's going wonderful, it's very comforting to think everything's in control. But I've seen that belief come around to bite you when it's your child who dies. And this is why one theologian said that we should do our theology at the gates of hell.
Yes.
And I really believe that's the case.
Yes.
You have to, if you can't hold your beliefs next to Auschwitz, where mothers and children are being gassed, then you shouldn't hold your theology. We have to carve out our theology ahead of time in the worst case scenario.
Yeah.
Did your husband Ian, did he process things kind of along the same way you did, or was his process different, and has it been a little bit different? He's my discussion partner, always my sounding board, and one who challenges me and makes me go deeper and think harder, and so you guys are processing things very much together? We process a lot of things together. So how about your daughter, if I can ask this? Like what kind of does Henry ever come up in discussions with her? Yeah, she comes up a lot. She's very she's got a lot of great questions for someone who's almost 6. But I will tell you this, I heard a pastor do a 6-part series on the problem of evil. And he was using some of this book and some of his God to Blame and some other sources along those lines of this Jesus-looking God. And he was speaking with authority and with conviction to this group of individuals about God's love and being unequivocally opposed to evil and unequivocally on the side of life to the full. And it brought tears to my eyes, because I thought, if I had grown up under that kind of teaching, how beautiful would that be? And so for my daughter to associate God with love, she associates God with always and only love. And I've told her, if you hear anything in culture and anywhere that contradicts that, come to Mama and we'll talk about that. And so it's just really exciting to me for her to have this beautiful picture of God from a very early age.
Did embracing this cost you anything in terms of like social currency? Friendships or?
It's tough. Because
you were down there in the Bible Belt.
Yes.
Glory to God.
Yes.
Hallelujah.
And people love me even when they reject what I'm saying outright, But it is hard. It is really hard on a friendship when someone thinks that your picture of God, which is rooted in the Gospels, is dangerous to the church. People who are so rooted in this blueprint belief that they think anything else is dangerous,
right.
then you are dangerous by association. And so that's extremely painful.
Yeah. You pay a price.
Yeah, you do pay a price. But I think on the flip side, I've seen people set free from resentment toward God and anger toward God, who suddenly say, "Oh, this wasn't your plan for me. Oh, you battled alongside of me." And one lady said, "I've taken my first deep breath in 2 years after finishing your book."
That's great.
That's
great.
Yeah.
You also find that people, it gives a significance to their life because you make a difference. Your choices. We're not just doing a pro forma thing.
Right.
Your prayer really matters. You really count, and that there's something about that just makes you more fully alive.
Yeah.
Your life really is important. Okay, one final question. Let me ask. This is done now, and I think that's going to continue to sow seeds and benefits and a lot of great stuff.
Yeah.
What is the future like for Jessica Kelley?
I'd like to transition to fiction. That's been my first love, and I put it aside. I sensed that, I really prayed through that and felt like this was a book that I was, called to for a season. And so I explored that. The theology tone. But the middle part where I tell the story of our family was just as artistically a rewarding part of that for me. Thank you. I enjoyed honoring his memory and dredging up the ugly and trying to lay it down in a way that was beautiful and honored him. And so storytelling was something that was rewarding on multiple levels there, but I'd like to pursue that in fiction. So,
can you give us a little hint about what the story is going to be?
It's all still marinating. It's still marinating. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm afraid if I say anything, it'll just poof. It'll be.
You have a website called Jessica in Process.
JessicaKelley.com.
But isn't it Jessica in Process?
That's the Twitter.
Oh, the Twitter account. Okay.
It's Jess in Process.
You're still in process.
Yeah.
And so you've got your theology down, but that doesn't mean that all emotional issues are solved. And you mentioned a little bit ago that you had a hard night. And this will be our last question.
Yeah.
What's been the process like in the last, how long has it been now, 4 years?
It's been 3.5.
3.5 years?
It'll be December will be 4.
Okay. So is it getting easier? Is it, the trigger, like, talk about what that's like.
There are moments that I think, I'm doing great. Like, this was great. And then there are moments that I think, I feel like it's still the first day. And I think that's normal. I think that at this point, especially when you have a young child and you lost a young child, you're still going through the young child mothering things, but with half the kids. And so, there's good days and bad days and good moments and bad moments. One of the things I most appreciated, even about the Blueprint memoirs, were the moms who just said, if you see me crying in the aisles of TJ Maxx, it's because I lost my daughter and I'm still upset. And I loved that it gave me permission to still be upset, and I think it's something it's forever changed me and I'll forever walk with it. But I feel a joy and a freedom with this picture of God that I didn't have before. So.
And that it's a very long story, not a short story.
Yeah.
And that's where the hope is in.
Yes.
Well, I just pray that the Lord continues to use you and use this book to set people free. I think it's just the most beautiful. You guys, if you haven't gotten this yet, please get it and give it to your friends. And it's a profound, healing, insightful, beautifully written, theological probing, questioning, stirring book. It really is. And I congratulate you on a job well done.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in, you guys. God bless you. Hey, check out her blog. She's a great writer, got a great blog, great reflections, great mind, great heart. So check it out. And so that's JessicaKelley.com.
Kelley.
And be looking for a future fictional writing, whatever it's going to be about. It's brewing. Okay. God bless you guys.